Um, Chef Javier Chavez, man, it's an honor to have you on the show. Welcome to Latinish.
Pleasure to be on.
My wife and I moved to Vegas in 2016, and we live here on Horizon Ridge in Stephanie.
Okay.
So we were looking for food. We come from Chicago, so we're spoiled, right? And we're looking for food, and we go to Kitchen Table. Looks nice, right? Outdoor seating, everything, nice vibe, and they serve. You guys serve chilaquiles, red. Usually, when we first went there, it was red. And my wife's from Juarez, and she's from Chicago, and we only eat chilaquiles green there, right? And it's real, completely different. And so she was gonna try. She's had chilaquiles everywhere. You've probably had them way more places, but she tried them, and she's like, "Holy shit, man! These are fucking amazing." And for a while, we would just, to this day, whenever we get a server, we both order the chilaquiles. If we're feeling bad, we get the pancakes, because I think the pancakes the kitchen table makes are the best buttermilk pancakes I've ever had. And I'm not just saying that, right? Like, you can go to a place that makes, like, we go to Baby Stacks, right? And they got good flavored pancakes, but their regular buttermilk pancakes are crap. I don't know. It's probably the way you guys make your buttermilk pancakes. It's probably that syrup, that fancy syrup that you bring to the table. But anyways, I just wanted to just give an introduction to my listeners and viewers about why I have Chef Javier Chavez on the show. You are the restaurateur, head chef of Kitchen Table, which, if anybody knows, anybody doesn't know, it has, I think, one of the best, if not the best, brunch in the Vegas Valley.
We're ground zero for it.
For sure. I bring people, whenever people visit me, I bring them to Kitchen Table, and they're always pleasantly surprised. So, I mean, give your own introduction to my listeners and viewers. Let them know what you're about.
So, my first job was back in San Antonio.
We're going deep.
We're going deep. I want to say it's funny because it does it's like a full circle. So, my first job was at the Marriott River Center in San Antonio, right on the Riverwalk. And believe it or not, I was doing breakfast for like 900 people a day. How funny I end up this way, doing breakfast. Never thought myself that breakfast would be my final resting place as far as the culmination of my career. But
you like imagine yourself as a dining chef?
I was mostly fine dining most of my life. I grew up in El Paso. I went to school in San Antonio, lived there for 10 years. So I was engulfed in the Latin flavors and all that. And that's my background, basically. That's where I get the Latin flavor from. My grandma always cooked that stuff. Just being around those bold flavors throughout my entire life. So I moved to Vegas in 97, I believe, if I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken. And my first job was at the Mirage with Alex Strada. I was his broiler cook. I worked there for about maybe a year, and then I had the opportunity to go to France. I went out there for 2 years, went to school at the Le Cordon Bleu, got my 7 degrees out there from
tell everybody,
basic, intermediate.
People who don't know about cooking, what is the Le Cordon Bleu Institute in France? I mean, we might have heard of it, but explain to what it's like. The Oxford of cooking, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, pretty much. It's the Harvard of the culinary world. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great schools out there. Johnson and Wales, the CIA in California as well, and all that. I just happen to have the opportunity to go overseas to engulf in that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it's 100% completely different from the United States. They're very laid back. They walk around a lot. And and they take time to eat. You know,
Mm.
they're never in a hurry. There's no drive-throughs over there, at least not that I saw. Where they're always on the go, 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 go. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
the form of art of eating and socializing and everything is it's a lost art. It doesn't exist anymore. Like I said, they're always in a hurry. They can't hold conversations on their phones. My daughter's guilty of that too.
Yeah.
Always on
That's
the iPad. You
my
know,
wife too. Yeah.
phones, phones, phones. They can't engage in a conversation. And that form of art, where you just take that 1 hour, 2 hours out of your day, it's that simple, to sit down, enjoy a good breakfast, and enjoy a conversation
Right.
like we used to back then. You know, everything at the kitchen table happened for a reason. Games, homework, conversations, eating,
Right.
everything happened at that table. And it doesn't exist nowadays. And that's what I try to instill in this restaurant, just to sit down and, like I said, just enjoy good food and conversation. And then after all that is done, go back to the grind. Do whatever you got to do. But when you're here, just it's very simple. Just
Yeah.
enjoy the time you have together, because as I get older, that time goes by even quicker. So if these young generations can just somehow, like I said, conversing, it's perfect. Just like you and I, see us just talking right here,
Yeah.
even though it's through a social impact camera, you still have that opportunity to, engage, have a real conversation. That's how I grew up throughout my whole life. Where every Sunday we'd get together at my grandparents, um, and just sit down and whatever, family time.
Yeah.
I come out here and I was so engaged in and learning about food and all the fine dining. I mean, I've worked at every hotel out here, as far as the Mirage, Treasure Island, Planet Hollywood, the Aladdin, Silverton, Red Rock, the
Wow.
Link. I've done all that.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where in my career, because I became a chef at the age 24 in the Aladdin, and at that time I was so eager to learn the foundations of cooking, seeing how chefs work with product knowledge, how they apply themselves. And you see their dedication to their form of art. And now it's not just throwing stuff together, it's putting love into that food. And with these chefs that I learned so much, I got to the point where, you know what, I'm tired of the corporate world. I want something for me. And as a chef,
Right.
the ultimate culmination as a chef is to own your own place.
Because
Not
then you have
many
creative
chefs
control.
get that opportunity. Yeah, it's not even that. I'm implanting a part of who I am into not necessarily my food, but to the atmosphere that we created here at Kitchen Table. This is my house.
Yeah.
You come here and enjoy it, and that's what it's all about. So, like I said, throughout my career, um, from cooking and learning with all these chefs, I've learned so much about not just food, but what it means to people when it comes down to eat. There's a whole other story, not just to eat and leave, but to enjoy those moments together with a great vehicle in front of you as far as eating and the food and the atmosphere. So 25 years of cooking, and this is the final stepping stone for me, where, I was scared as shit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. Sorry for the bad word. So when I
No,
opened
no.
this
You can
place
swear
up,
in here, but I mean, like, you had been at so many great. You had so much experience. You were in, from El Paso, San Antonio, France, all these restaurants in Vegas, and then you go to open your own, and you're still nervous. You're like, fuck, what the fuck, is it going to succeed or what?
you're scared when you're about to sink so much money into a operation. Um, and this is where a lot of young chefs or future restaurateurs are afraid of is, what if? Well, what if you don't? What if you succeed?
Yeah.
There's a lot of what ifs.
Right.
You've got to jump off that cliff, man. And sure, you're going to get bumps and bruises along the way. And I still am to this point, but you've got to make that leap, and there's no other way around it. And to see the benefits of of the fruition of all the hard work that I've done. And I mean, I used to spend the night here in the restaurants after prepping just to make sure that the core recipes were correct. And then now I've got to the situation where, you know, this thing runs on its own. But I still, since I love being in the restaurants and around food, I have to be here. I love being here. The first time I did it, I had no idea what I was engulfing myself into, as I essentially pretty much got married to this restaurant. This is my wife, basically.
But you have to do it like that, right? Any passion, any project, you got to marry it, right? Can't be a hobby.
All abandoned or nothing. I mean, you can't go in half-assed expecting to get great results. It just doesn't work that way. Trust me, I've had my struggles. I've had a lot of failures throughout my career. But at the same time, I can still say that, you know, kitchen table's here. You know, it looks simple. But in the back end of the operations, it is one tough monster to operate. You know, you've got personalities to deal with from your employees. Sometimes they're cranky, sometimes they're not cranky. They might have shit at home. And then you've got to deal with the guests if they're hangry. You know, sometimes they're hungry, sometimes they're not. They're in a hurry. Food doesn't come out correctly. They didn't like the food. You know, and that's just the aspect of the interaction part. You still got to deal with making sure the consistency of the food is correct all the time. I'm constantly tasting the food to make sure that it's on par, because food to me, it's not a standardized recipe.
Right.
To me, you come here because it's seasonality. So one day a jalapeno out of the month might be super hot. The next 4 or 5 months down the road, it could be mild. That's crazy. So you've got to adjust your flavoring profile for that. And that takes years of mastering. A lot of these young cooks come in here and they think that, oh, yeah, I can make an egg. An egg is one of the hardest things to cook because of all the protein. So you come in here, and I've had a couple of interviews where, and these are seasoned cooks, you know, they've been working in this for like 20 years. Wanted to come in here to work for brunch. And I said, all right, go make me something special. Use whatever you want on the line, be creative. And their end result is a ham and cheese omelet. I'm like, dude, really? 20 years of cooking, you come up with a ham and cheese omelet. I'm like, dude, no, this is not gonna work. You know, you gotta put passion in your food, man.
Yeah,
even if it doesn't taste good. I'm always telling the chef in charge now, you know, be creative. So food is for playing around with. Challenge yourself. If you do the same thing over and over and over again, it becomes monotonous. And that's when you start developing bad habits, because you're just coming here to work and going home.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way as a chef. As a chef, you want to strive to reach out for product knowledge and challenge yourself to learn. Don't make it boring, because the moment you start saying, God, I got to go to work, that's when you know you're not in the correct place, you know?
Right.
You want to come to work. You want to have fun. It's the whole point. And that in itself will transfer over to the food that you're cooking. You know, there is so much stuff out there to learn. I'm still learning, thankfully, about all the product out there. You know, wine, especially with the other restaurant. There's so much to engulf your mind over that you just become an encyclopedia of food knowledge and food product that you can pass over. And believe it or not, when you're passing over that information you're teaching, it's even more of a challenge, because you feel like you're not necessarily impacting that person's life, but showing them that you can do other things other than making hash browns all day. It's just,
or ham and cheese
sandwiches. I know, right? I mean, who wants to come to work and make 200 pounds of hash browns every day? Nobody. I don't. No. You've got to have fun with the food.
No, but it's really interesting that you said that, you know, a restaurant is like two halves. Like, you know, I was in food service I was a waiter for a while. And I mean, a restaurant is two halves, two completely different businesses that coordinate. There's the front end of the restaurant, right? The servers, the hostess, everything. And then there's the kitchen. And how many times do you go to a restaurant where the service is great, the decor is fancy, but the food is shit? Or how many times do you go to a place where the place is shit, bad seating, bad lighting, bad music, bad everything, bad service, but the food is amazing. And that's the thing about Kitchen Table is that it's both, right? You have servers who are friendly. Everybody's friendly. The ambiance, the decor, the area, the location. And then you're like, okay, they're probably going to give me all this fucking show and they're going to give me a ham and cheese sandwich, right? But then you order chilaquiles and it comes just the presentation and then the taste, right? Everything is not you don't slack on anything, and that shows passion.
Yeah, it takes time to develop all this. These assets are, as a good restaurateur, because it's just me, I don't have a partner. As a good restaurateur, I've learned throughout the 8 years that we've had this operation that you've got to engulf yourself in every aspect of the situation. So you know exactly how and when and how to control it, how to manage it. Let's say a guest is mad if they don't like the chilaquiles, or for some reason they don't like a food product. I go out there and I talk to them, but with hands down, kid gloves, I try to lead them into a direction and try to follow what kind of craving they have, from sweet to savory, spicy, salty. And then I lead them into another option where at least they leave satisfied. The last impression is always a lasting impression, always, right. No matter what. So when they leave happy, they'll be happy. They come back happy. And, you did every effort to make sure that their experience was top notch, because remember, they're patronizing you. They're taking their time to come out here and enjoy some quality time. So you've got to make sure every aspect of that experience is to par, or even higher than that, beyond expectation. The 7 years that we've been operating, it's nonstop. We're still a hotspot.
I would say you're getting even hotter, man. I mean, you guys. Yeah, I mean, I want to ask you how you got through the pandemic, but I mean, I've been there recently. Past few weeks, I've been going there pretty regularly. Me and my wife, and posting on Instagram and shit like that. And you guys seem to be busier than ever. I mean, it's especially since the pandemic's not really over. You guys are pretty busy.
It's crazy, isn't it, how that seems to work out? So based on this year compared to last year, we're up 28% in sales. And I guess people were just eager to get out. Oh, yeah. And I don't blame them. They want that sense of normalcy. I get it, but we still have to follow guidelines as far as like OSHA comes out here, the health department, if someone takes a picture because somebody's not wearing a mask and they report it, then they come out and investigate. There's a lot of obstacles you got to maneuver through. But during this pandemic, the first couple of months of opening, it was a scary thought because I didn't know about the virus. Nobody knew about it, how it spread, or what's going to happen. I kind of eased off on my restrictions a little, but even after vaccination, you can still get it. But they're a little bit more wary of the situation and surroundings they have. Can you believe it's been almost a year wearing these things?
No, I think it's been over a year. I think the lockdown went down in Nevada on March 13th.
Yeah, March 18th was the last day of operations for us. And as a restaurateur, I go, wait, what the hell's going on? What the fuck am I going to do now?
Right.
And then those 3 months of just staying at home, panic attacks, crying, just wondering what situation, where am I going from now? Because I lost all my inventory. Everything was gone. I had to throw it out.
Right.
I didn't know how long this was going to last. I lost a lot of money in those, almost $1 million in those 4 months of operation. Just thinking, what is a restaurant owner going to do?
Right.
There's no alleyway to go into the same field other than driving a Domino's pizza truck to sustain yourself. And in that forum, I did a lot of thinking to myself. I go, you know what? I am not going through this shit again. There's no way. You want to put a limit at 25%? There's no way. It's impossible sitting 10 people in here in a day to maintain the overhead needed to run this operation. So I sat there after months and months of crying and drinking and just kind of like going into depression, kind of like,
Yeah.
what the fuck, man?
Right.
I finally had the ability to reopen. But like I said, when I reopened, those 4 months really took a toll on my health, my mindset, uh, everything as far as having the courage to reopen again. And I knew I was. I just was afraid to pull the trigger because if it goes back down on lockdown, then I lose all my inventory again.
And that's
So that's the uncertainty, the unknowing of what the hell's going to happen next, really put a hamper on the decision making and skills of what's my next move, what am I going to do. So after everything was reopened at 25%, I waited about another month to reopen just to make sure that it doesn't fall backwards. And even then, I had to this point, we're almost caught up. I'm not completely. But in those 4 months of closure, I still had to pay rent. I still had to pay power. I had to pay Cox. I had to pay gas. I had to pay insurance, workers' comp. All that stuff was still building, but with no revenue coming in. And by the time I reopened, I was in debt about almost 150,000. And to slowly get out of that hole, it's been a challenging factor for me. A lot of people think just open the door and voila, it's not, it doesn't work that way. I wish it was that simple.
right.
That once you open the door, everything's back to normal. It's not. You've got to make sure that when all these servers came back to work, you got to remember they were in the same situation I was.
Right.
Drinking all day, sleeping all day, coming back to work and finding yourself part of a social fabric of society and being able to function correct. It took them a while to get back to that level. And then even then we opened with half of the menu just because of the inventory issues. If I went full blast with the menu, I'd probably just end up shooting myself in the foot because they're out of that practice, the seasoning part and all that. You know, you don't drive a car or ride a bike. I mean, yeah, it's easy as getting on a bike.
Yeah.
You won't forget it, but it still takes time to learn how
to
roll it.
Right.
So that was one of my biggest challenges right now was trying to catch myself up in all the bills that just accrued. It was exhausting, not only with the amount of purveyors contacting me wanting to get their money, but I also have staff that I cut some of their wages and I had to furlough most of my employees just so I can stay afloat.
Yeah.
Managing the food costs and the overhead of payroll.
Yeah.
Those were exhausting. Not only was the time stressful enough for me, but to get back to the position of where the operating expenses of a restaurant were somewhat manageable, that was, this whole year and a half has been just something I will never want to go through again, just because of how hard it was to mentally focus and do it correctly. It was very challenging.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't see that. They assume because they see a smile, behind the smile, there's a lot of other problems that they don't see, you know?
I think people who smile, the people who smile the most are the people who've been through some shit, right? they learn how to smile, right?
Yeah, but you have to. I mean, this past year, like I say, was probably the hardest of my life just because of all the challenges I had to go through. Not just necessarily with the restaurant, but even personally, not being able to see my daughter, hanging out with the other half, you know, the wife. It was rough, man. It was, and it's still, you can still feel the side effects. Like when I go home, it's not happening as often. I'll get an anxiety attack just because of the overwhelming stress that my body had to go through to stay mentally fortitude throughout this situation. We've come a long way.
Yeah, but the good thing about Kitchen Table is that, you know, you guys had a really good reputation beforehand, and like you said, people, you know, really want to, Like the pandemic taught us like, oh, you know, when the lockdown's over, I'm actually going to go out to eat more. I should have gone out to eat more. I should have enjoyed life more. And you see that already, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
things like restaurants and things like, I think the only thing that's really hurting are movie theaters, but restaurants, I would imagine, are going to do really well this summer.
We are. We're bound to hit. We're on gear to hit 1.9 million this year.
Nice.
But like I said, it's just adapting to the situation. These restaurants throughout this pandemic, I mean, they took a big blow. It took a lot because they don't have anything to fall back on. And like I said, the lost inventory and then the reopening, you got to restock your inventory, training your staff again, getting them all back into that gear that you originally left at.
And especially you. I mean, you're not running a Denny's. You're running a quality restaurant, so you had quality product.
All right, it took a big taking from me. It really tore up my mind, my body, my health. It took a real beating.
Well, let's forget about the pandemic then. Let's we've survived it. It looks like we're surviving it, right? It looks like you and Kitchen Table are going to survive it with flying colors.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, like, okay, so what, El Paso. My wife's from Juarez. What kind of food did you grow up with? And then you go to France, and was there any kind of shock? Did you know what to expect, or because you're trained in you have degrees in cooking and baking in classical French cuisine.
Yep, I've got both I got the Grand Diplôme, which is 3 diplomas in each section of classical cuisine and pastries, and the ultimate was the Grand Diplôme with you finish off with chocolate. But like I said, when I grew up in El Paso, my food was a lot of Mexican food. Every time we go over to Juarez, we go to the nightclubs. There was this one place called the Cebollero. It was a cart, and always served with tortas with colitas de pavo and a lot of onion.
Wow.
That's all we would eat. It was so good. I guess maybe it's because of all the alcohol we had, but it was refreshing to come out and have something that amazing, the flavor profile of those tortas. I grew up on Chico's Tacos as well. Very basic, but it's like an institution. It's like an H-E-B back in home, back in Texas. It's what it's known for. A lot of cooking from my grandmother, and believe it or not, I've noticed that like when I buy the dry chilies here, they're not the same as they are back home. The flavor profile is completely different. So my mom sends them over to me. She ships them over once a month. And that's what we use for our salsas, our chilaquiles, our chile colorado, all that stuff. It's so weird that the flavor profile can change so much in that short of a distance.
Yeah. Well, it's like, my family's from Honduras, and when I go to Honduras, they, it's a banana republic, but they got bananas there like you wouldn't believe that are so sweet and so delicious. And it's like, and they laugh at me. They're like, I've never seen bananas like these. And they're like, yeah, we only send like standardized bananas to America. You guys get the standard banana. We have all the great bananas here. Avocados. It's
crazy, isn't it?
10 different kinds of avocado,
Yeah. It's crazy how the flavor profile can change. So I did all that's what I was surrounded by, all that kind of food, back home. There was a place called 40s that we would go to. What was the other one that was called? I can't remember. It's right off of in this downtown area. I can't remember what it's called. It'll come to me. But I grew up on all that food, all that Latin flavor, all that the spices and everything. And then, like I said, I jumped into the career of culinary. At first, I didn't know I was going to be culinary because I studied civil engineering at the University of Texas.
Oh wow!
I did that for 2 years, and I said, you know what? I can't do all this math. I was in calculus. I was like, you know what? I spent most of my time in student union playing foosball. And my mom said, you know what? I'm not wasting my money on this. You got to figure out what you want. And I go, I honestly don't know. So for like a year, I just kind of wandered around figuring, what am I going to do? And
could you cook at the time, though? When did you know how to cook?
Yeah.
Who taught you how to cook?
Just being around the food a lot, playing around a
Yeah.
lot, my grandma. And then, like I said, throughout my career, being around all these great chefs, it just kind of formed yourself into what I've become. I've always been around food, and that's when I realized after all the civil engineering classes and all that architecture stuff, like I said, I took that year off. And like, that's when it hit me. It's like, let me go to school. So I went to school in San Antonio, the CIA out there. And then we were going to transfer our credits to the CIA in Hyde Park, New York. They didn't allow us. So my mom offered, believe it or not, she offered to pay for my school in France. I'm like, really? At first, I was scared as shit because I didn't know any culture over there, culture
Right.
shock,
Right.
I know the language,
Right.
living on my own for the first time, kind of just, it was different for me. And, the first couple of months, it was, it was hard to adapt to the language because everything was taught in French. I finally picked up the language. And then, while all said and done after graduation and all the traveling, I honestly did not want to come back.
Isn't that how it
I
works?
wanted to live. I didn't know how it works, right? I didn't want to come back at all. I was so ingrained in that life culture over there, the way they care themselves. I just became one of them. And my mom says, well, the only way you're going to stay out there is if you get a job peeling potatoes because I'm not paying for your stuff anymore. I'm like, okay. So I ended up coming back to the United States. I still want to take my other half out there so she can see what it's like in Europe. It's kind of hard to put in words. The culture out there, the history, everything out there is completely different from over here. And to be engulfed in that situation, I wouldn't trade it for the world. That was probably the best years of my life, living in France and traveling throughout Europe. But it is, it is the best time of my life. But I got
What kind
ingrained
of
in that
things did
culture.
What kind of things did the cordon bleu teach you? Like the way they show it in the movies is like it seems like a fucking military. It seems like a boot camp. You go there and they're trying to weed you out, right?
So what they do, so this is how I first started. So, well, the first semester, all the students get there. They did orientation. There's about 150 of us, and you go through three
From
courses.
all over the
You got
world.
all over the world, all over the world.
Wow.
We're the only two Americans in there.
Wow.
My brother and I. So we went to the the introduction, all the orientation, and out of 150. At the end of the course, the three courses, I think only 8 of us graduated. That's all there was left. It's a pretty rigorous course. You've got MOS, that's what they call them. It's like a master chef out there. And they teach you. So you sit in a stadium and you're looking down at the professor, the chef, and he's cooking the plate, going over everything. And then by the time he's done, you have to go into your own little kitchen, and we all had our own station, and you would cook the same plate that he just made. Now, one of the things that a lot of these young kids, and I've learned to develop, that they don't teach you a lot of stuff just by watching. So let's say, for example, you're making risotto. They won't tell you like the chicken stock has to be hot. It's got to be boiling when you're incorporating it. So a lot of these young kids, they just put cold stock into it. What happens with that is it doesn't develop the starch in the risotto correctly. Those little kind of details are the things that you're watching the professor do as he's doing his program. So when you get into your little cubicle and you're cooking the same thing, those little things are the things that fuck up your dish. You've got to pay super attention to every detail. And throughout the pratique is what they called it, when you're cooking your food, the chef would come in there, taste everything, observe you. And if he didn't like something, he'd hit the back of your head. It's like, qu'est-ce qui passe? Qu'est-ce qui si? It's like, what, chef? Now what did I do? It's like, you're not cooking it right. You got to control your temperature correctly. Those little things. So there was 3 courses set up, and each one for classical cuisine and for classical French pastries. You had intermediate, you had the basic, and then you had the superior. And all those 3 courses and respectively in each category, we're concentrating on a certain thing, let's say from cutting to formulating a stock. And obviously the basics, you actually start cooking with proteins like fish and chicken, and how to fabricate those. And then at the superior level, you do a lot of chocolate, a lot of sugar work, a lot of
Is that the hardest stuff?
not
Then?
just the hardest stuff. You learning how to temper chocolate and how to pull sugar and getting the correct temperature, and all that kind of stuff, and how to make these masterpieces out of sugar. I wish I still had a picture of it. I'd show you. And then for your final exam, this is what does you have to put your own plate together based on the ingredients that the chef decided to choose, a mystery basket.
Iron Chef
and you
style.
cook with them. Yeah, pretty much. And then you make your plate. And if you pass, you pass. If you don't, you're pretty much screwed. So like I said, only 8 of us were able to graduate. It gets harder as you go along because there's a lot more technique involved. A lot of more detailed work is involved. A lot more higher ingredients are involved. But like I said, it was my passion. And I made it. I graduated 3rd in my class. So we did well.
Yeah. With everything that you've been through and in the pandemic and all of your experience, I mean, at the end of the day, are you happy you gave up on civil engineering and you pursued your chef passion?
I am. I'd do this in a heartbeat again. This is and luckily I'm grateful for all the support I've had. You know, even throughout all the mistakes I've created, have done, and gone through, I still have a support cast of, you know, I've got somebody to rely on if I have a problem to say, I don't know, I'm just feeling bad. I could call my other half or Pedro or whatever, my friends. We all went through this together, so
Yeah.
we stuck together like a family, and that was a key component of everything. Would I change this for the world? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Is it for everybody? Absolutely not.
What's
Cooking
something
is
that
not
you
a-
wish you would have known going into having a restaurant that nobody told you?
All the angles entailed in operating a restaurant. Within the first 3 years of a restaurant's operation, you either know you're going to make it or you don't. The 3rd year is your hardest. If I had I don't know how to put this, knowing, because I've already gone through it, I would change it for the world.
Right.
But to understand, because now I've got to do front of house and back of house. I was so used to back of house only. So I guess one of the biggest things is how to deal with all the angles. I remember when I first opened up, you get a lot of criticism from people on Yelp.
Fucking
Yelp. This restaurant's not gonna make it. I know. I fucking hate Yelp. And at that point, you're so consumed about what people are thinking about you, you lose sight and focus. And at that point, that's when I realized after 2 years, I was like, why am I reading this shit? And you think I really care? I don't give a shit what you write on Yelp. You can do whatever you want.
It's because you're looking for good reviews. You're looking for good reviews, and you know, if you ignore the bad reviews, you got to ignore the good reviews too. You know, you got to ignore it all.
Yeah, you're looking for that instant satisfaction. It's like, oh, they love the food. So that's what it's about.
Yeah.
You can't look to the left. You can't look to the right of what people are doing. You can't. You got to stay focused on you and you alone. And if it happens, it happens. I mean, a lot of these young guys, they look at, oh, whoa, what are they doing over there? What is he doing? What's the new thing? Like, why?
Right.
Why? There's no point in it. Is it challenging? No. It's more heartbreaking than anything else because you're trying to compete with something you're not.
That's what I always say.
Your
like,
identity.
You're trying to be something, and you're trying to be something you're not. You're gonna fail, and that's got to be the worst feeling, to fail while trying to be something you're not. I'd rather try to be exactly what I am and fail at that.
Yep. Yeah, you can't change who you are. It is who you are, and you just got to believe in that. You're going to question yourself from the day of open. You're going to question yourself. What am I doing wrong? Why is it so slow? Is the food coming out gross? I mean, why is nobody in here? You start questioning yourself, and you start going even more crazy. Chefs are already crazy as it is.
Right.
I mean, you start questioning yourself and building that doubt over and over. That's one of the hardest things. I wish I would have known. Don't listen to them.
I
Just be
remember
you.
going in 2016, kitchen table was relatively quiet. And over the
Uh-huh.
years, we noticed got busier and busier. Then, because we used to be
Yep.
able to pop in, just for brunch at like 1 o'clock, 12:30. After a while, we couldn't do that because there would be like an hour wait, and we're like, okay, it's kitchen table. Everybody's the secret's out.
The secret's out. So that's one of the things I wish I would have known. Just to ignore that. Another thing is um, how to handle certain situations. It's like I said, I was always that back of house.
Yeah,
Um, Dealing with front of house and dealing with my guests is a whole other monster. That's another thing that somebody's got to learn. So, like I said, I wouldn't change this for the world. I am as happy as can be. Yes, I've had stressful moments. I've had long nights. I've had nights where you question yourself. I've had a lot of failures. But throughout that thing, and that's the whole point. You see where you stand now. It's the journey. That journey, I would never switch the world. I would never give it up
yeah,
because it's made me who I am. It's taught me a lot of things. It's formulated my character to be who I am now.
right.
Um, that journey, that experience, it's something that you will never forget. And you look at it at the time, at how hard it is. It's like, look, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But it's not. It's very challenging. It keeps my mind focused as more situations arise, and you just got to push through it. And that's all we've been doing. And luckily, I've been grateful enough that we've succeeded right off the bat. We had a great product. We stuck with the product. Yeah, we might have days where shitty service. I get it. It happens everywhere. It's gonna happen. Shitty food. I get it. The food came out cold. It happens. It's the nature of the beast.
Right.
You're going to have problems, and it's a matter of how you handle them. And for all these young guys that, like I said, are eager to do it, take that leap of faith, do that jump. Don't be afraid. You'll regret it down the road. Even if you're not successful, it's not
Yeah.
going to happen overnight. You just got to keep going through it. And that's one of the things that I try and instill in my cooks. Like, look, man, I know you guys want to make your money that you were before, but it's not going to happen. And let me get through this curve, and then get out of the hole, and then I'll put you guys back to where you were. And they agreed. They all agreed.
Yeah.
But like I said, the restaurant overall, the operations, it's very challenging. It's one of the hardest operations to manage, besides your own practice as a doctor because of all the lawsuits. But the restaurant industry is one of the toughest to operate because of all the angles. And I wish I was a little bit better prepared, a little bit more educated. Like I said, I learned throughout the years of operating, setting up the POS system, dealing with all the labor laws, all the laws itself, the taxes. There's so many taxes, all that kind of stuff. I've learned so much,
Right.
and I would never change it for the world. I'm glad I took that jump. I'm glad I took that leap. I'm glad to say it was successful. I'm glad where I am, where I stand. And like I said, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, and
I
just
would
thinking
do
about
this.
it, just thinking about it, like you're talking about how it's so difficult. It's got to be extra difficult for you because what you're trying to do at kitchen table is so unique and so special. You're trying to give casual environment, fun setting, but also fine dining, like really good food, fine dining,
Yeah.
right? Like when you go to a fine dining restaurant, they'll wait because they know it's slower. So there's no pressure on the wait staff to
Right.
bring out your high quality steak in 5 minutes, right? But at
It's
kitchen
expected,
table,
that type of service.
right? Exactly. At kitchen table, they're going there to relax, but then you're also giving them like high end food, high end cooking, and so that's tough, man. It's not like you're trying to you're straddling the line between. And, I'm not comparing it like this, but between a Denny's and between a fucking, Delmonico's steak or something. And that's tough.
Yeah, it is a restaurant. The breakfast itself, that this type
And
of service,
breakfast. Yeah.
breakfast is one of the hardest to maintain. It's even easier than fine dining because people already have the expectation. They wake up hungry. They're gonna get hungry.
Yeah.
They're
Hungover.
cranky, hungover. It's a different monster from what I was used to. All the fine dining that I used to do. Um, and like I said, I challenge anyone to, as a young uh, entrepreneur that wants to open up the restaurant, to do it. There's nothing more gratifying to call it your own.
Right.
This is my restaurant.
And
You know, I put the face all over it.
as a patron, and I think I can speak for my wife here. You know, there's restaurants that hold you down. You know, your go-to, like from Chicago. This growing up my whole life. You know, there's these restaurants that you go to regularly, and they become part of your life, part of your memories of a place. And for sure, Kitchen Table is, like I said, we just moved to Vegas in 2016. Kitchen Table is our, like, when we ever leave Vegas, we will remember Kitchen Table as a place where we had so many great brunches. And the only mistake we make is sometimes it'll be a Thursday or Wednesday, and we'll try to, like, take a brunch, and we'll go to Kitchen Table, and it's so hard to get back to work when you go to Kitchen Table for brunch. You're like, fuck, let's just stay here. Let's have bottomless mimosas. Fuck it, man.
Yep. Fuck it. That's the whole point, is to engulf yourself in that mindset. Just forget the world. This is my time. I might as well enjoy it to the fullest extent, because you'll never know. You'll never have tomorrow.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. So take that opportunity to just enjoy that moment. It's that simple. And I've learned that there's no reason to be in a hurry. You know?
Yeah.
Coffee's gonna be here. Food's gonna be here. But today is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it could all be gone. So live your life to the fullest. That kind of mentality. Enjoy life. Enjoy food.
Yeah,
It's
and I
just-
again,
it is
I
what
want
it
to
is. Life
thank
is
you,
life.
man. Thank you for taking time out of it. I see you, like, you know, you're sitting in the restaurant, you're scoping out everything, analyzing everything. Thank you, man, for giving me your time. Let people know where they, you know, about Kitchen Table, where they can find you guys on Instagram. I don't know if you know any of that stuff.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. I kind of enjoyed doing this to kind of speak out about, you know, the current situation and everything we've gone through. And you know, it feels good to kind of open up and, you know, just kind of let people know exactly where I stand. You know, the other 3/4 of the iceberg still underneath. So
Yeah. No, that's why I love having a podcast, man, because I get to talk to people that, you know, first of all, I meet people that I've never heard of before, but then I get to talk to people, like, you know, for a couple of years now, we go to Kitchen Table, and I'm like, man, I would love to talk to Chef Javier. And so it finally happened. I thank you so much, man. I hope I wasn't too torturous. Thank you for sharing
Not at all.
and keep up the good fight, man, because you are fucking supplying great food at a great place. Like I said, anybody who comes to Vegas, you know, if you do yourself a favor, get in an Uber and go out to fucking Henderson, go to Kitchen Table. Especially if you're hungover, you will have the best food, and you'll sit outside under palm trees. I mean, what's not to love, man?
The whole perfect scenery. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, man.
It's been a pleasure.
Peace. I'll see you this weekend, probably, if you're there.
I'll be here. Come and get me. I'll probably be in the kitchen somewhere.
All right, man. Thanks, man. Peace.